Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call this quarter revision to order at the hour of 3:04 p.m. And first, the recommendation to appoint a chair. Do I have a motion for a chair? To appoint a chair?
Motion to appoint Mayor Cahill.
Okay. So that the quarter revision for the East Lake, Wright, Stricker, and Calixe Primac municipal drains hereby appoints Richard Leatham as chair.
Hello, everyone. Hey, John Michael.
Hello.
We'll get right off a disclosure of any pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Adoption of the minutes.
That the minutes of the quarter revision held on February 23rd, 2023 be adopted as circulated and printed.
Mover, please. Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconder. Councillor Navakis, all in favour? It's carried. Number 5, understanding the Court of Revision procedures under the Drainage Acts, provided for information purposes only. And we've got a 6, East Lake and Drain. And we welcome Stephen Eck from Chatham, Kent. Welcome. And we can get straight on with this one. Have you got anything on this one, John Michael?
No, your worship, I've heard of no appeals. So I don't know if Tom has or not, but I've heard of no appeals on this one. So unless there's a last minute appeal, we can simply.
So we have no written appeals?
No, correct.
No comments or questions from landowners?
No.
Comments, questions from members of the Court of Revision? Seeing none. Then we go to the decision type. And I think we'd go straight to a recommendation, please.
That the quarter revision hereby approve the schedule of assessments for the East Lake Drain as outlined in the report prepared by Spreet and Associates Engineering Limited dated April 20th, 2023.
Thank you. Do we want to move and seconder
Yes,
on
please.
that first drain?
Yes, please.
Councillor Denning, seconded. Deputy Mayor Tellier, all in favour? Carried. Okay.
Thank you very much, Council.
Okay, we'll take a minute's break if you want to exit the room. Okay, thank you. We'll go straight on to the right drain. John Michael, is there anything on the right drain?
No, your worship, I've heard of no written appeals on this drain.
Okay, no written appeals, comments, questions from landowners? Comments and questions from members of the Court of Revision? Seeing none, we'll go straight to the decision. So I think we need a recommendation, please.
That the quarter revision hereby approve the schedule of assessments for the right drain as outlined in the report prepared by Spreet and Associates Engineering Limited dated March 7th, 2023.
Mover, please. Councillor Navakis. Seconder. Councillor Denning. All in favour? It's carried. So we go straight on to 8, which is the Stricker drain. John Michael, anything on the Stricker drain?
No, your worship, I've have no written appeals on that.
Okay, thank you. So comments and questions from the landowners? Excuse me, if you need to speak, would you mind coming to the? If you would just state your name, please, and then carry on.
My name is Ken Okelson. My wife and I own a parcel that's involved here on the Stricker drain. I wanted to know how you arrive at the assessment on these drains, because we are assessed with close to 30% of the cost of the main. And we probably would be involved with possibly 15% of that main. If it ended at the last property line, it would take another 15% of the cost to reach my property. And yet I'm assessed over 30% of the cost of that main, which I think is very unfair. I mean, granted, the bulk of my property is draining into that drain, but also the bulk of my property so far has not suffered from that drain being a shortfall. So if that drain were completely replaced, I would be charged probably 30% of the cost, and it would benefit me zero, because that drain is doing a good job right now for me. So because somebody else wants to go onto that drain, it's going to cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of, well, 30%. You just do the math.
John Michael, have you got a
Sure, through your worship, Mr. Okelson. So you're talking about the maintenance schedule, the future maintenance of the drain, where you're at 30% or you're 29.2% on the drain. But for the construction of the drain, you're actually about $19,215 of 99,000. So roughly 20% of the drain. So how we arrive at that is we basically, you're at the top end of the drain. So under the Drainage Act, you pay for the entire length, you pay to use the entire length of the drain because your water goes through the entire length of your drain. So if you look at page 10 in the assessment for construction, you can see that there's various assessments. So the first section is the main drain, and you'll see that W. Charlotte Grains is paying $43,000. So that's roughly 43% of the drain. Haddish Farms is paying about 11.5%. Gurchin Farms is paying about 4.6 roughly. I mean, it's almost $100,000 this drain. Yourself, you're paying $19,000 and the road's paying $10,000. So you'll see that the outlet column is basically the land area that you have contributing to the drain. And because if you look at Charlotte Grains, you're 12.1 hectare, they're 12.1 hectares, but they don't use the whole drain. They're at the bottom end. Whereas you use the whole drain and you're at 15.9 hectares. So you pay a lot more on outlet. So really your charges are on outlet. You don't have a lot of tile on your property. We're bringing a new tile to your property line. So you're paying about $1,900 for that connection, but the drain on the property, so that would be Charlotte Grains, they're paying about $38,000 on that drain. So it's basically split out between benefit and outlet. Now for future maintenance, there's no allowances to the landowners. There's no engineering. There's nothing. It's just smaller repairs for future maintenance. So typically those are assessed more just on the amount of watershed that you're using, like the amount of land that you have contributing to the drain. So you're paying, a higher percentage on future maintenance, but future maintenance is expected to be very small. On the construction, you're paying a lower percentage. You're paying about 20% of the drain, 19% of the drain.
That doesn't address the fact that as the drain stands right now, any improvements on that drain aren't going to affect me. And I've already paid once to drain my property into that by getting the drain extended to my property line. And now I'm gonna have to pay again to get it improved, so you guys call it, so that somebody else can drain more land into that drain. And it benefits me nothing. Yet I'm gonna be footing a good portion of this bill for no benefit to me. That's the point I'm getting to.
I understand that. Unfortunately, though, when drains are improved, whether you paid the first time, the second time when they're improved, the schedule starts all over again. You're paying outlet. Really, you're paying because your water goes through it. And, you know, the landowner downstream did petition for a new drain. I believe the Haddish is also indicated at the meetings that it should be replaced through your property. So unfortunately, I know you got no problems because you're at the top end. Your water does go through the drain, and those people do have the right to sign for a drain. And
So
the
does that
cost
all
of,
change? Does this
What's
all
that?
change now if somebody behind me decides they want to come onto that drain?
well, I think you're at the top end of the watershed. Everything else goes elsewhere. So, you know, I don't think that you could bring any more people into that drain.
Well, you're doing it right now.
I don't know who different we're bringing in, to be honest with you, sir.
Well, doesn't Charlotte Drain, isn't the main reason that this is all taking place is because they want to drain some more property and that the drain cannot handle that? So the only way for them to handle it is to replace the whole damn drain because the drain can't handle that extra property being drained into it?
I'm looking at the original plan. I don't think that they're actually bringing any more property. They wanted the drain improved because it was in poor condition through their lands.
That's their
I
problem,
don't
not
think-
ours.
I don't think
Look,
that they're asking for any more area. They you know want a better standard. They want a larger tile that will handle more capacity, have less surface water on the ground. So we're going from I think it's a 10-inch, Tom might be able to verify that, to a larger drain. They want a better standard through their lands, which under the Drainage Act, they have the right to do, but they're not bringing any more water in.
If they're not bringing in any more water in, then why on earth are they putting more tile in?
Well, they may be putting,
You're-
sorry, the watershed area isn't changing, but they're not, they may be putting some more systematically tiling in, but they're not taking a whole parcel of land that previously wasn't tiled into this drain and tiling into that drain, sir.
Well, it looks like the cat's chasing his tail here, because you want more capacity, yet you don't need more capacity because nothing's changing. This is the impression that you're trying to push on to me for me to understand, and I can't understand that. Where if you're not putting more water into that drain, then why on earth do we have to alter it? If it's been doing the job for everybody up until now, then why would we change it? That's
Well, I
like
don't think-
changing this road out here into a 4-lane when the 2-lane's doing a perfect job right now.
Well, for one thing, the environment is changing. When the rains come, they come heavier than what they used to. We get 4.5 inches in half an hour. So there can be tolls on them drains.
That's right. In most cases, those people that are being affected by those are because they didn't take the necessary precautions so that it wouldn't happen to them. Either they're building in low-lying areas where they had no business building in the first place. Why on earth anybody would give them permission
No,
to
I
build there?
realize that, but that affects field tiles too, and drains.
Well, obviously, I'm not gonna win this because there's 5 against me. I don't like it. I've made my point here. I really don't think that if the drain has been doing the job up until now with the amount of water that's going through it and there's no more water being added to it, why on earth we're gonna spend another $140,000, $130,000 to do it? Yeah, I've expressed my concerns. I guess I have no other recourse but to live with it if unless my vote has an effect on this, because it doesn't seem as though it
No.
does.
Well, it's noted, believe me.
No, well, for whatever good that does.
Okay, so comments and questions from member of the Court of Revision? Yes.
Through the chair, perhaps, John Michael, you can, answer this, or perhaps Mr. Mohan. These requirements that we are discussing here with regards to these drainage improvements and the requirements of dividing things the way it is set, is this a provincial regulation?
Through your worship, yeah. So under the act, we can assess drainage costs for two ways, benefit and outlet, and we also have special assessments. So the road authority pays for the crossing under the road, they pay for the catch basins at the road, but benefits really defined as if you have the drain on your property, you know, if you have a larger drain that handles more surface water, that, you know, less surface water on the top, more water underneath, that's considered a benefit under the Drainage Act. And then there's outlet. Outlet is simply the land area that you have contributing to the drain. So we assess all the costs in accordance with the Drainage Act.
One follow-up, your worship, if I may. So, to Mr. Olkison's point, if somebody felt that this was not the appropriate way to do this, that it would be a provincial matter and it would be something that perhaps Mr. Olkison or somebody else who had the same concern could reach out provincially to see if there would be a consideration at looking at it. Is that fair to say?
Well, through your worship, so this is unfortunately under the act. I mean, we have a tile here that's a 1960 tile, and it's probably designed for 1/8 of an inch or, you know, 1/4 of an inch of rain in an hour, in 24 hours. This new drain is designed for 1.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. So there's pretty good precedent that, you know, if a landowner can sign a request for it, you know, the laws do prescribe that. There is an appeal body that you can take it to, but generally speaking, you know, people have the right under an existing drain to request an improvement to the drain. If it was, you know, this drain was 3 years old and they decided they want to improve it, you know, there might be an argument there, but since this drain is 1960, so it's what is that? 63 years old or something like that. You know, there's pretty good sound precedent that, you know, a landowner can request an improvement to a drain.
Okay. Yes. Deputy Mayor.
Through the chair, John Michael, good morning, or I guess good afternoon. I'm a little discombobulated over here. Just wondering, landowners with drains and such from 1960 and that era, how often do you have in our area, since you do so much work, people come up asking for the request that is going on right now?
Through your chair, I would say probably 50% of the drains I work on.
So eventually all drains you'll have a
Yeah,
request
I
come
mean,
within the
it's
next 5 years,
just-
10 years? How does that work?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it just depends on the quality of the tile put in, I guess, you know, who installed it, but generally, you know, there's lots of drains that, you know, the gentleman who started this place, Andy Spreet, I've, you know, been replacing his drains that he put in the early 1960s. Sometimes if there's a lot of fall, we get a drain that lasts, you know, 100 years, but generally speaking, you know, they're like any piece of infrastructure, you know, eventually over time they wear out, and, you know, the standards of drains over the years have changed. When this drain was built, it was probably 1/4 inch of rain in 24 hours, but, you know, now we're at 1.5 inches of rain in 24 hours. So it's quite common to have drains that are, you know, of this era or older being replaced.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Seeing none, does this we can still go on with the recommendation? So we'll read that, please.
That the Court of Revision hereby approve the schedule of assessments for the Stricker Drain as outlined in the report prepared by Spreet and Associates Engineering Limited dated April 28th, 2023.
Okay, so I need a mover. Deputy Mayor Tellier. And a seconder. Councillor Navakis. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you. We go to 9. Calexty and the Primac drain. John Michael, have you got anything on this one?
No, your worship, I've heard of no written appeals.
Okay, thank you. Comments and questions from landlords? Seeing none. Comments, questions from members of the Court of Revision? Seeing none. Decision, recommendation, please.
That the Court of Revision hereby approve the schedule of assessments for the Click Site and Primac Drain as outlined in the report prepared by Spreet and Associates Engineering Limited dated May 2nd, 2023.
Mover, please. Deputy Mayor Tellier, seconder. Councillor Navakis. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. That brings us to adjournment.
That the Court of Revision for the East Lake, Wright, Stricker, and Click Site and Primac municipal drains hereby adjourn at 3:25 PM.
Mover. Councillor Denning, seconder. Deputy Mayor Tellier. All in favour? Carried. Thank you very much, John Michael.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
John.